Just hours after Donald Trump refused to answer if he thought that the president was a natural-born citizen, his campaign released a statement saying that, yes, he now believes President Obama was born in the United States. All of this 5 years after Trump became a leading figure in the so-called birther movement.
Trump's rival Hillary Clinton jumped on the controversy as she returned to the campaign trail after taking 3 days off to recover from pneumonia. But while she was out sick, Trump tightened the gap with Clinton in various polls, as you see there. This one from Fox News shows them in a one-point race among likely voters. In Washington Thursday, Clinton said Trump was and remains divisive.
Everywhere I go, people tell me how concerned they are by the extreme policies and divisive rhetoric they've heard from my opponent. From the racist lie about Mexican immigrants that launched his presidential campaign, to his racist attacks on a federal judge. And every time we think he's hit rock bottom, he sinks even lower.
You better make sure I win on November 8th, because I'm going to have wasted a hell of a lot of time, energy, and money. You know, when they tell me, Mr. Trump, it doesn't matter what you've accomplished. First of all, I've accomplished nothing. You've accomplished. I'm the messenger. But what you've accomplished is so incredible. I say, unless we win, we've accomplished nothing. Just remember, we have to win on November 8th. We have to get there, get everybody.
Joining us now, Democratic strategist Dave Jacobson and Republican consultant John Thomas. Okay, just when you thought Donald Trump was on a roll, everything was looking good, came this blast from the past. It was an interview with the Washington Post. It was published just a few hours ago. This is where he was refusing to answer if President Obama was born in the United States. This is one of the quotes. "I'll answer that question at the right time. I just don't want to answer it yet. I don't want to talk about it anyway. The reason I don't is because then everyone is going to be talking about it, as opposed to jobs, the military, the vets, security." Okay, so that was the non-answer. Then a short time after that, we had this statement coming from the campaign, which read in part, "Having successfully obtained President Obama's birth certificate when others could not, Mr. Trump believes that President Obama was born in the United States." The one thing, though, is, John, that's not actually coming from Donald Trump. And we've been told over and over again, only Mr. Trump speaks for Mr. Trump. So when will Mr. Trump actually say those words?
You know, perhaps in a sit-down interview later on he might, but I mean, the campaign does speak for a candidate. It's a statement on behalf of the candidate. This is as close to an admission that Obama is a citizen and this is put to bed as we're ever going to get from him. But the fact is, he doesn't want this to be a big story, and his statement, I think, was right. You can see the last couple days, Trump has been disciplined on message. You know, he's been giving speeches on the economy. He's been giving speeches on women and child care. He really wants to be focused on that. He gets it, that this is a distraction.
Okay, so, Dave, let me ask you this so your answers in this context. Obviously, they're trying to put it to bed. Mm-hmm. But how much potency does this issue still have from a Democrat's point of view?
I think it's fresh evidence of the fact that Donald Trump understands fundamentally that he's hit his ceiling, right? You're seeing these polls come out. He's definitely narrowed the gap, right? He's hovering around 42, 44%, but he hasn't broken that 44% ceiling. And I think he fundamentally understands, look, if I'm going to win this thing, if I'm going to get closer to 50%, I've got to appeal to those persuadable voters, those moderate women, suburban voters who he's not really breaking through with. And I think he fundamentally has to come off as not a racist, not a bigot. And one of the ways to do that, perhaps, is to say, look, I believe the president was born in America. The problem is Donald Trump isn't saying it, right? That's the issue. His campaign surrogates, his spokespeople are doing it, but he's not really doing it.
I think the problem is Donald Trump's backed himself into a corner. Donald Trump does not apologize. That's just who he's not that person. And Donald Trump also thinks America needs a strong leader. And so he didn't do it before, he's not going to do it now. He doesn't apologize for anything.
He's also appealing, sorry.
So, no, I was just saying, I guess that's him also saying that he doesn't care about the African-American vote because this issue is potent in that demographic.
I think he cares about it. I think he's been stumping at the different churches. No. He obviously cares about their vote. He's been going to their churches and spending time in Flint, Michigan, talking to the African-American community. But on this issue, he's made a statement. I think that's that.
Okay, well, after 3 days homesick, Hillary Clinton back on the campaign trail. She jumped on this. Listen to what she said.
And again today, he did it again. He was asked one more time, where was President Obama born? And he still wouldn't say Hawaii. He still wouldn't say America. This man wants to be our next president? When will he stop this ugliness, this bigotry?
So, Dave, you know, for the last week or so, Trump has had, you know, the wind at his back, if you like. So even if you had this statement coming from the campaign saying he believes he was born in the United States, this was still a gift. A welcome back gift from Donald Trump to Hillary Clinton.
Precisely. I mean, here's the problem with Donald Trump. Like, when you take the duct tape off, diarrhea of the mouth comes out, right? Like, when he's scripted and when he's got the teleprompters up there and he's reading and he's on message and disciplined, we see a narrowing of the race. We see a closing of the polling gap. But the problem is, now that he feels like he's got the wind at his back, he feels like he can shoot from the hip again and say whatever's on his mind. And I think that's his challenge.
I mean, Dave, John, I mean, we have seen some slips in this message discipline in the last 24, 48 hours.
Yeah, he's not a professional candidate. Look, Hillary Clinton has, what, 40-plus years of experience in the public arena? This is Donald Trump's first go at it. He's going to make mistakes. But let's look at the polls. Dave, he hasn't just closed the gap. He's ahead in many of these important states. So whatever he's doing seems to be working a little bit better than Hillary Clinton.
All right, well, President Obama was also at an event with Hillary Clinton this evening, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus event, and he talked about the tone of the election. Take a listen.
And look, throughout this political season, you know, the talk around these issues has cut deeper than in years past. It's a little more personal. It's a little meaner, a little uglier. And folks are betting that if they can drive us far enough apart, and if they can put down enough of us because of where we come from or what we look like or what religion we practice, then that may pay off at the polls. But I'm telling you, that's a bet they're going to lose.
John, there's clearly a reference to Donald Trump there and his struggle with Hispanic and Latino voters.
Well, it also could reference Hillary Clinton calling 7.5 million Americans deplorables. That could potentially be it. Look, this has not been a positive tone. When President Obama ran in 2008, it was a yes, we can. It was a change election. But here's the truth. 70% of Americans think we're on the wrong track because of that guy, right? So we're not going to have an uplifting cycle. We're going to have a dose of reality that we need to get back on track to save this country. So we're just not going to sit around here of like hope and change. That didn't do it. So I think that's where Barack Obama's coming from.
Look, I think elections are obviously about choices, and at a certain level, it's incumbent upon a campaign or a candidate to sort of serve as a public service announcement to say, hey, listen, here are the differences, here's sort of the choice that you have in this election. But I think the president's right. Like, at a certain level, you want to have some inspiration and some hope and some forward-looking, optimistic view of the future. At the same time, you don't want to discount the importance of really defining your opponent and really laying out the stakes of this election. But I do think that the president's right that we need more sort of uplifting rhetoric in this campaign.
There is growing pressure on Trump to release his tax returns, and you get the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, to that. Listen to what he said.
I'll defer to Donald Trump as to when he thinks the appropriate time to release his returns. I know he's under an audit, and he's got an opinion about when to release those. I'll defer to him on that.
Do you think it's a good idea?
I release mine. I think we should release ours.
Okay, but according to Donald Jr., it's not about the audit. This is what he said.
He's got a 12,000-page tax return that would create probably 300 million independent financial auditors out of every person in the country asking questions that are going to distract from his main message.
So, John, basically, you know, the problem with releasing the tax returns, according to Donald Jr., is that everyone gets to see them. And that's kind of the point, isn't it?
Well, I'm sure he's right. It would be a distraction, but we also have to take Donald Trump at his word that he's under audit. I mean,
Why?
Because he says so.
But what, I mean, we're not in that business. We, you know,
trust but verify.
Trust but verify. We're not in that business. I mean, he has been asked to provide a letter from the IRS that refers to the audit. That has not been forthcoming.
Well, he should do that. So, if he's under audit, he needs to prove that he's under audit, right? He needs to do that. I agree with you.
Okay.
I'm always taken aback when people say, you know, why don't you just take him at his word? Because we're journalists and that's not what we do. Dave, that question of releasing your tax returns and, you know, it being a distraction or not, for Hillary Clinton, as she's come back with what effectively is a reset. Should she continue down this road of attacking Trump, or should she be providing that hope and change message that, you know, John himself referenced that Obama brought out in 2008? What should the strategy be for her now that she is back?
I think it's a balancing act. I think, look, you want to be hopeful and optimistic. And given her likability factor, I think she really has to have some sort of positive message. She's got a lot of great policies. She put out a book earlier this week with all the different ideas that she has sort of to how to move the country forward. But I think at the same time, she still has to drive a wedge between some of these persuadable voters and Donald Trump. She can't give up on the negativity. And I think, frankly, some of the recent speeches that she's delivered, whether it was in Reno, Nevada on the alt-right movement or some of the other speeches in the past, I think she really has to make him look like he's unhinged, he's thin-skinned, he's too radical and extreme. I think that's got to be a key part of her strategy, but that doesn't discount the fact that she's got to have some sort of positive message to complement that.
Okay, and now for something completely different.
You see it? Go ahead. With my hairspray.
So about transparency, I think we found out a few things then with... look, at least it shows he's a good sport.
And it's
Yeah.
real.
Sort of.
You might be taking
If
a
it was
leave
a
there.
squirrel or if it
I
was
just wonder
real.
like how much glue he put on before the show.
Bobby pins went flying.
It was a priceless moment, though. I will give him that.
Okay.
Gentlemen, always a pleasure. Next
Thank you.
hour,
We'll
we'll
see
keep
you
it
in an
going.
hour. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.